Sweet.
Oh,
That was good.
that was horrendous.
All right.
We good?
Yeah, we good. Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to Making It Work podcast. I'm David, and I'm here with my co-host, Osmin.
What is up, y'all? My name is Osmin Constanza, and this is our guest.
I'm Michelle. Nice to meet everyone.
Yes, sir. So, Michelle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Let's see. I am not in school. I'm not working.
Oh, gee.
I'm just kidding.
I'm not in school. I'm not working. I'm depressed. My car stopped working.
No.
I'm kidding. I mean, I'm in school. I'm going to be finishing school in December, my last year. Right now, though, currently, I'm getting ready to go to Germany for school. I'm going to go to Germany, Deutschland.
Deutschland.
To be a part of this missionary school, to like train and be equipped to become a missionary for what's called the Global Youth Culture with the organization that I am going through. And so, yeah, that's happening like soon,
Dude,
like next
she's
week.
on a mission.
Yeah.
I'm like
That's
this.
so dope.
I'm on a mission.
Yeah.
She's on a mission, bro.
And I've been here for like the last 3 months since you got accepted for it.
Longer.
A couple of months, huh?
Yeah, I got accepted to this school in like February, March. In March.
June?
It's been like
It's last month. Yesterday.
Like yesterday,
yeah,
and I'm
actually
leaving
yesterday
in 2
they called
days.
me.
Yeah.
They just told me to come. But yeah. So
Yeah.
since March.
And like I've been very blessed to see the process in that. What has that been like for you?
Crazy. It's been so crazy. It's been a lot of unknowns and a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt of like, is this even right? Am I even doing like, do I even know what I'm doing? And a lot of, I don't know what I'm doing, but I think it's been like a stretching process of learning what it means to like really trust and really rest. And that's what we're talking about today.
What?
Talking about rest.
Transition. 816.
Hey,
That's
that
kind of
was sick.
crazy.
Come on.
That is, bro.
But yeah,
Did
today
y'all
we're
plan
speaking
that?
about rest. And more specifically, we're talking about rest as it being a form of trust. Because I feel like we just look at rest and we're like, yeah, rest is rest. You just fall asleep or you just do whatever. And that's where it's at. But I think we need to just understand that, like, hey, man, like, rest requires a huge amount of trust.
Right.
And I think that's something we just overlook sometimes because we're in a safe home, we're in a safe place or safe environment, and we feel like nothing.
Just hear gunshots outside.
Yeah. Well, because
We're safe. Oh.
like it's crazy, yeah. But like,
So funny.
yeah, like it definitely requires a lot of trust, and even in our physical bodies. Like when we're at home, like I said, like that requires a lot more trust than we actually think.
Yeah.
It's just that we believe that we're like so safe within our homes that we just overlook it. But like, if y'all ever lived in another country or have gone visit, like it's pretty nuts. Or like even just going to like another friend's house, like sometimes when you can't even sleep and you're like, I'm like, this is a foreign land for me.
Or they don't give you a blanket, so like.
Bro.
So you have to cover yourself with couch pillows.
Oh
That's
man,
so funny.
that's hilarious.
How are you guys like in the area of rest currently? Like in all honesty.
I don't rest. I grind
Boo.
24/7.
I'm just kidding.
24/7.
He's like the Christian high school athlete. He's like, God always Philippians.
God always, dude.
4:13.
Grind time, always do. God never rested, so I won't. That's not biblical.
But that's not like that's not it.
Man, well, for myself personally, rest is something that I've never taken into consideration. I've always been, as far as like my walk with Christ, I've always been on 100. So background story on me, I'm a PK. So I was raised in the church. I grew up in the church. So for me, I never took intentional time to rest. And when you're young, you don't think about resting because you're young. You have so much energy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But recently, last year, because of COVID, I went on a unintentional 6-month rest. So I went 6 months where I didn't go to church. I didn't serve at church. I had a group, but it was through Zoom. And like, so for me, that was the first time in all these years that I've been in ministry. And it's crazy to think about, like I say, like I've been in ministry since I was 9 years old.
Dang.
So I've never taken intentional time to be like, okay, I'm going to set apart myself to recharge. And then last year, because of COVID, I finally sat down and took time to like be with the Lord and recharge my batteries. So now I was telling them before we started filming, I'm in a season where I'm coming out of resting, so, which is crazy. 72%. Yo, Siri,
what
crazy.
What is happening?
So yeah, I'm in this season where I'm coming out of rest, and I'm like, all jokes aside, like I'm back into the grind. Yeah. But like I'm starting to see myself fall into the same patterns that I've been in before, where I don't rest, I take on too much, and then now I'm starting to feel overwhelmed, and now I'm dividing my time into too many spaces and too many areas. So now I'm in a point where this is good stuff for me to hear, and our church has been talking a lot about resting and sabbaticals, so it's been very healthy to hear, and just trying to apply it, because a lot of times we think about resting as taking a long vacation or but a lot of times it's just being intentional with one day of your week and choosing to like, yo, I'm not gonna think about this, I'm not gonna think about work or you know, my ministry, and I'm just gonna rest in the Lord. Yeah. So yeah, that's where I'm at with rest.
Do you feel like that, because you said you've been in ministry since you were 9, but you just like rested unintentionally last year. Yeah. And so do you feel like that's because like you didn't hear about resting like in that time frame, or like
here's the thing,
like hear the teaching about it, or, like, no one talked about it, you know, or like were you just like, I just don't want to rest?
Here's the thing, like Hispanic people, we're just on 100 always. And if you've ever been to like a small Latin church, Hispanic church, no, like you're never just gonna be in one ministry, you're serving in all of them. And here's the thing, like my parents were the people that, you know, they came here as immigrants, so it was grind time from day one. Yeah. And my dad, he didn't move here just to find like a better life. He moved here because God called him here to start his church, to start a ministry. And so my dad, when he moved here, it was with purpose. Yeah. But then it was also like, okay, but I gotta provide for my family. So I heard about rest, this great glorious thing called rest. I heard a lot about it. It sounded fun. Yeah. It sounded fun. But I personally just never was able to find like the time to do it. And then the thing too is like it could get a little toxic to where like, oh, it's because he's being lazy. Oh, it's because this, it's because that. And then a lot of times it's like, no, because I'm actually tired. Like I've been here 7 days of the week. But yeah, so I've heard about it. It was just never really applied. Yeah. Because I don't know, it really was always grind time. Like, I don't know.
That's interesting to think about it like from culture wise, like culture perspective of how people view rest. But what about you, Asmin?
Resting?
Yeah, like how do you feel about resting right now, and like your experience with it and stuff?
Man, let me just say, like, I think in 2019, might have been 2019, yeah, around that time, I was serving, but I felt like I was in the season in the desert, you know, like a desert season, where you just like, you just feel like
we know Christian terms.
Also, PK means pastor's kid.
Oh yeah,
you just said
that was just for the people that know. Like, if you know, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well, I didn't know.
I didn't know. Yeah. He googled it.
Yeah. What is PK? Penalty kick, bro? You're a penalty kick, bro?
Yeah, I did.
No, but in that time, I was in that season where like I was just still. Though I was serving, I was still. And let me tell you, man, I got frustrated. Yeah. Because I think though resting may take place over months, it may take place over days or over even like 3-4 hours, whatever, however long you do it, right? I think we get into this mentality where like we look around as we're resting and we look at everyone around us and we say, wow, they're moving and I'm not. Like, and I feel like I should be moving. Right. So for me in that season, and even up to recently, like sometime, it was like I was resting my physical body, but my mind was like, bro, look at all these other people moving in this and X speed and this speed and whatever, right? Speed. And I was like XYZ, you know, like, but like I just looked at myself and I was like, dang, I'm not moving right now. But I love how, I think it was Pastor Whalen, he was speaking on rest, and he was speaking on the importance of it, because when we rest, we're able to just come back to this. But I don't think it was Pastor Whalen. It was a pastor, all right.
It might have been Pastor Whalen.
It was a pastor, you know. But he spoke on like the importance of like resting and what that does in the efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like how we can just come back and be much more efficient in the areas that the Lord has called us to.
Right.
And I'm not gonna lie, like when I'm like doing whatever, like if it's a group or if it's like at work or whatever, and if I don't rest, I'm grumpy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I went to Florida and a couple other spots with my cousin Isaias. Shout out Isaias. Shout out him. Shout out Isaias. Anyways, dope dude, man.
He was on the podcast.
He's a cool guy. Yeah.
That episode should be out before this one.
Yeah, but if it's out before,
or shouldn't. Yeah, when
Should
this
be.
comes out, I'll be in Germany.
Yeah, when this is out, you're already gonna be in Germany. That's crazy.
That's crazy. Anyways.
but basically,
Deutschland.
so she'll be in Deutschland when this comes out. But at the time, I was like traveling. I was helping him move from Miami to Tulsa, and I just remember coming back, right, to like a full week of work. And normally I work like 4 days a week, but I decided to cover everyone's shift that was covering my shifts in that week. And when I came back, I worked like the whole week, and the last one I had to close out by myself, right? And normally it's not just one guy, it's like 3. So I was there frustrated. I was like running around. I was like, this is the end of the week. I haven't rested. I'm so angry, like whatever. And though I didn't say anything, in the inside I was like so like frustrated, so angry. And I just remember thinking, it's like, wow, this is what the importance of rest is. Because had I just taken one day, even if it was like midweek Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
I would have felt refreshed. And I would have come back with just a different perspective, just like nicer, more patient, And there's just such an importance in that. And my season was like that recently, where it's like constantly moving.
Right.
But I just feel like the Lord is so good to teach me new ways of rest. That it's not limited to just sleeping 8 hours. That it's not just limited to like taking one day off, But that He can also bring rest to you in like the 10-minute moment when you say, Lord, like, I just want to have a conversation with you. He's so good, to just bring us strength in that,
Yeah. And that's really cool, because it leads into my first point. When we rest, we recharge. So when you're rested, we can effectively create an impact in our circle, right? We can create an impact in our ministry, in our purpose, in our career. So when we go into anything unrested, we're going in uncharged, and we have nothing to give. And that's important, especially when we talk about things like going to a ministry school, going into, for myself, like a worship service on a Sunday. And when I'm just giving throughout the week, then Sunday comes, I'm like all burnt out.
Yeah.
Or I come in kind of like you did with work, and I'm like, man, why am I even here? Like, I'm so tired. And I think that's something important too, because I'm trying to divide my time appropriately throughout the week. Because like I'll have like people invite me for groups or stuff like that, like, hey, we'd love for you to come do worship, and I'm a yes man. I'm like, yeah. But then I'm like, man, I'm gonna be so tired, or like, man, I've been, just like practicing songs and singing songs, and like, which is great. I love to worship, but it's like, if I'm doing it every day of the week and just like saying yes to every invitation, I'm not resting. And then when Sunday comes along, I'm gonna be exhausted, or coming to a worship service, like kind of like not wanting to.
Yeah. And I think as you were just talking, I'm like thinking about like, like even just in the gift of worship that like the Lord has given you, like how much more would you be able to gain if you like took a second to rest?
Right.
Like what new songs does the Lord want to give you if you were to just like listen to Him and rest?
That's
but
good.
I think and that's like, that brings up one of my points that I had written down of like, why is resting important? And I feel like one of the huge things is that whenever we're resting, it's like something that God commands us to do. Like I don't think it's an option when you're a believer, when you're a follower of Jesus. But whenever we're resting, like, because that's what God did, like after creation, the seventh day He rested. So when we rest, we essentially enter into like this thing of like communing with God, and like
that's good.
It draws us into like this deeper relationship of knowing like, oh God, because you rested, and you're the one who literally made the whole universe. So like, if you who made the universe can rest, like you who made me, like I know I can rest. And so I think they're in that, whenever we do rest and we connect with him in that, I think we're also able to be poured into by him, so that we can pour out onto others once like we're done resting.
That's so good.
Sense, you know? So yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I love that.
So good. I had a piece of ice in my mouth. But that's so good. And there's one bit. You guys hear that? But there's one bit in scripture.
Yeah, we're gonna put it blasted everywhere.
No, but like there's a bit in scripture. It was Luke 5:16. Very simple, right? But this is right after Jesus heals a man with leprosy, and it says, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." And I just picture like when we are like constantly moving. I'm sure Jesus was doing so many amazing things, right? We look at the Gospels. This man was doing it all, right? But it says here he often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. And I could just imagine it being more than just prayer. Right. Like it being rest in that. Right. It just being a genuine peace that the Lord just brings in that. And I think it's so good. Just having that moment, taking the moment to just literally seek the Lord and find rest in him, you know?
Right.
But
yeah, it's important, honestly, to go into our secret place and to find the Lord in that area, because so much happens outside of our secret place, right? And there's so much that God is like, okay, but now I need you to give it to me. Because we can take the family stress and work stress, and we just balling it up. And when you are someone who, like you, Michelle, who's going to a ministry school and you're gonna impart, you know, like what God has given you, it's so important to make sure that what you get from the world, you give it back to God.
Dude. Yeah.
Because then you're just like, here's anxiety that I got from that guy. Here's, you know. It's like,
no, it's so true. And I'm just going to share, like I was kind of sharing it with them before we started recording and stuff. Just my whole thing of like how the Lord has really been speaking to me about rest. Because 2 years ago, before COVID happened, I was doing this internship with our church. And that was like, go. And then COVID hit, and I think everyone can say that they had to, quote unquote, rest. And then after that, I got this opportunity to be working with my church. And so I just got straight back into serving without even taking the time during COVID to rest properly. I think I just coasted through COVID and didn't really like rest intentionally like the Lord may have wanted me to. But so I got to have this amazing opportunity to work with my church, and it was so great. It was so awesome. It stretched me a lot. I grew a lot. I've learned a lot. But then I get this opportunity to go to Germany, and I feel like the Lord was calling me to step out of that and like to really take time to rest. And I was like, I don't know if I'm hearing you right. Yeah. You're saying you don't want me to work.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. And I'm like,
wow.
Okay.
I wish he would tell me that. Stop
no, but
work.
like,
Yes.
the reason for that though is like so that I could have this time to be intentional of like, okay, let me refocus and like really try to hear what is happening. Let me see if I can hear the things that you were speaking to me in the midst of all the noise that I was in before I like started resting. And so yeah, I quit. I left my job at my church in a healthy way. It was really good. And then at this time I was still babysitting, but then I was told by my babysitters that they didn't need me anymore. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm literally not going to have any income. And God's like, yeah. And I'm like,
that's what
I
said.
What do you mean, yeah? But in my mind, I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, I'll just pick up side jobs. Like, and so I started like trying to figure out ideas of like, okay, how can I make money? And so I like picked up Rover, like dog walking, and like tried babysitting other kids. But in the midst of that, like there was this like deep conviction that was happening inside of me, and I was like, I know this is so wrong. Like I should not be doing this. And it didn't bring me like any peace doing it. Like as I was in the midst of like watching dogs and stuff like that, it was so like I got so much anxiety. And I felt like there was one day where I was just sitting in my bed and God was like, so how are you doing? Like, how are you doing in all this? Like, how's it going? And I was like, okay, I'll stop. Like, I think that, like, God, I think that's the whole point of, like, free will. Like, the Lord allows us to go and do those things. Yeah. But he's, like, always still there to be like, hey, like, I told you this one thing, what happened?
Yeah.
And but that's like his kindness that brings us back into being like, okay, actually, God, you're right. Like, I should have surrendered this in the beginning. And I feel like once I really let it go of like, okay, God, I'm really not going to work. I'm not going to worry about like picking up side jobs. Which, by the way, like was such like a worldly way of thinking of like, oh yeah, I'll just hustle, grind, like get all the side jobs that I can get so I can make all this money.
Right.
So it wasn't even from him to begin with. And yeah, so I think like throughout that whole process, once I finally was like, okay, you know what, like this is stressing me out so much that I just don't care anymore. Like, okay, God, fine, like you're really gonna have to figure this out for me because I just can't. And I feel like it was that moment where I really was able to enter into like this new kind of rest. By all means, I'm not like an expert in resting at all, but and I feel like that's like a process. No matter like however long it takes us to the day we die, like we're always going to continue to learn about like what rest looks like for us.
Yeah.
And I've been in this process of like, I don't know what I like to do. Like, I don't know what Michelle likes to do. I don't know what's restful for Michelle. And I think that another thing that people, that like draws people away from resting is feeling like it has to look like everybody else's rest.
Wow.
You know, like I think I that has been my thing is like, okay, well, this person loves to like wake up in the morning and read their Bible and connect with Jesus, and that's what rest looks like. And if I don't do that, then I'm failing, then I can't rest. You know, so I think like I think there's like this intimidation of like comparison of like, well, like they're doing that and that's not what I like to do, and that might be the right way to do it, so how am I gonna like rest effectively or whatever it is. And so I think in all of that, like rest is a form of trust because you really have to like take away the control that you have whenever you're resting. Like you take your hands off of everything that you once were holding on to so tightly. There's this one song that came to my mind. It's literally called Trust in You by Antoine Bradford. Have you guys heard of that song?
Sing it.
When I trust in you, I do the thing that I was made
Never
to
heard
do.
wrong beat. No.
It's all
I thought you were doing like a.
When I
no.
trust in you. It's a screamo.
Oh
Yo, I don't know if I can rest with that one.
But it's so it says, when I trust in you, I do the thing that I was made to do, to live a life that fully rests in you.
Wow.
And all your promises
good.
to me. That's the lyrics, guys. Look it up. It's a great song. But I feel like that's something that the Lord like was just like letting me sit in.
Yeah.
And I feel like when we fully trust, we can fully rest. I heard that from a friend a few months ago, and or more than a few months ago, like maybe last year, and it's something that has just been repeating in my mind. Like if we fully are able to trust, we have nothing to worry about, and when we're not worrying, we're able to fully rest.
Ooh.
And
That's bars.
Yeah.
That's good.
Make a song out of it.
I will.
Triple platinum over here.
But then I was reading Psalm 62. That whole psalm is really good, but 62:7, it says, "On God rests my salvation and my glory, my mighty rock, my refuge is God." And so like even when we think about our salvation and like our belief in Jesus, like that has nothing to do about the work that we do. I mean, obviously there's work involved, like we have to work out our faith and stuff, but like our salvation ultimately rests in Jesus, and like that takes surrender, that takes letting go of control. And so and another point, sorry, I feel like I'm just like
No, go
on.
Go off.
Clearly I've had time to like marinate in this.
Thanks
so.
for the podcast, guys. This is Michelle's now. I gotta go.
Michelle's like mindset, more like grind set, she said.
Mindset, grind set. But like, and when we fully rest and we're fully trusting, I feel like we can fully love.
Yeah.
Like,
wow.
I feel like whenever we're resting in the Lord, He's like, yes, now I can do all that I wanted to do in and through you. And that rest isn't even for us, but it's like for other people, because as we're resting, like God is pouring out things that He wants to give to us.
Yeah.
And then we're able to give that to other people. So it's like, none of this is about us. This is ultimately about like what God wants to do.
Yeah.
And so
that's so good.
It's so good.
I have the kind of like, I think about it like think of like a mechanic, and like if he has like rusty tools, You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like he goes to like fix a car or something. And he's like, you know, trying to, I'm not a mechanic. This might be, he's trying to fix the car.
Trying to make a salad.
But, you know, and like he has a wrench that's rusted or whatever, and it breaks. Like,
Dang, is this even, like, does that happen?
It's like,
I don't know. That's just, God gave it to me.
Okay.
Got a screwdriver on the
fine.
windows.
If God gave it to you.
Okay, listen. So, just listen. So, but you know what I mean? This, like, I love that you said it. Like, it's really not about us. God's like, I can't use you until you're rested. And I like something that you said earlier is like, you were in this moment of like, okay, well then God told me to rest, but I know I gotta grind. And something that like culture tells us that's good, like you gotta work, chase a bag, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Stuff that culture tells us that's good, God's like,
not my good.
That's not what I told you to do though. And I think that's so important because, and I love how you said like rest is fully connected to trusting God. And if we don't rest in God, we can't trust in God.
No, sir, we can't.
Wow.
Like
we cannot do it.
Like you can't just talk about it, be about it, and rest. Like that's what it is. Like you can't tell me that you're fully, you know, got it up. I don't know if that's the thing. You know what I'm saying?
What kind of expressions they say?
Yeah, I don't know.
Crazy.
I'm making them up. I'm writing a book. But yeah, I love that. Like, you know, the world tells us like, man, you gotta grind, you gotta chase your bag, you gotta, you know, make this money, rack up as much as you can. But in this season, God was straight up telling you like, yo, I just want you to chill. Like, let me worry about your money. Like, cause that doesn't concern you at this moment. I'm trying to take you somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think that's so good, but it's so hard. Because for me, moving to Arizona, I'm living on my own dollar, right? I'm not being funded by my parents anymore. You know, they don't, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, my dad helps me out with like my phone payment every once in a while, you know what I'm saying? Like, but for the most part, moving here, I was like, man, I'm like fully putting my finances in the hands of the Lord.
Yeah.
And I'm choosing to like, okay, yes, I'm gonna do the best that I can, but ultimately it's like, God, help me steward this. This is yours. And in a way, I'm like fully just resting my money, my finances, right, into the hands of my Creator, right? So I think that's so crazy because trusting is not easy. Yeah. Especially when it's like, yo, isn't that crazy? Like trusting in God, like that's insane.
That literally, there's like no reason to.
There's literal like. That's what I love about it, though. I love that.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah. And I think that, like, when I
start questioning everything, I'm like,
it starts existential.
Right.
Why are we here?
Did you see me?
No, I think, like, what you were saying, like, if God is trying to take me somewhere and I'm like, no, like, I feel like I was also in this place of, like, okay, well, if I just do everything that I can do now, like somehow it seems real that I'm still here, that I'm not leaving. Like, I think it breaks this different like mindset that I have of like, okay, if I just like make all these connections with people, do all these things still, and like make my own way somehow, like I'm still here, and like that, like it's comfort. It's comfort, and our culture hates comfort so much, and so I think that's what also makes it difficult. But man, I really don't think that. Like I know the situations I'm going to face when I'm in Germany. Like, I know that we're going to be reaching out to people and doing outreach and sharing the gospel with people. And I know for a fact that if the Lord hadn't given me this time, this opportunity to rest and open my eyes to see, like, no, this is, like, important that I rest, then I would not be able to do what I'm going to do there. Like, I know I'm going to be so tired and so stressed and so worried about all these different things. And so, like you're saying, like, it's so important. Because God's like trying to get us somewhere, but not only for our benefit, but for the people that are on the other side of our obedience of resting.
Oof. Oh, that was so good.
That
was good.
Oof.
So good. And even just like bouncing off of that, like one thing that you wrote in our notes, and you went straight to Exodus 23:12. It says, 6 days do your work, but on the seventh day do not work, so that your ox and your donkey may rest. And so that the slave born in your household and the foreigner living among you may be refreshed. And I think that just really emphasized the point of like, it's not just us resting, but the people around us are also refreshed in that. And I guess now the question is, what does that look like what does rest look like for us? Because one thing you quickly said was the fact that like sometimes we compare our rest to other people's rest.
Yeah.
And we feel like their rest may be a little more Christian than ours. But what does that
Resting
look like?
at the club.
Yeah.
Yo, I'm just resting.
Resting at the bar.
Crazy. But what does that look like, Michelle?
Yeah, so one thing as I've been like digging a little bit deeper into rest, I had went on what's called an impact trip with the organization that I'm a part of. It's called Steiger, Steiger. Go look it out. And
Deutschland.
go look it
Deutschland.
out.
Deutschland.
Go look it up and check it out. It's pretty cool. Their whole
Is this a
mission and
sponsored
vision.
video?
For real.
This is not
So I better
sponsored.
see some monetization
No.
on this video.
Crazy.
Tiger, hit me up.
So I went on an impact trip with them, and after the impact trip, it was probably like one of the most intense things that I've ever done. We went out, so the impact trip ended on Sunday, but Saturday night we went into a club and like got to we just went to party.
You just party?
We just partied.
That's crazy.
No, but we went
Dang, I
and
think I
just like
might go to Steak.
if that's what y'all do,
If
count
that's
me
what
in.
y'all do, shit.
No, so we got to like evangelize to people and have really cool conversations, but Sunday, like, we were all really freaking tired. Like, it was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that they were talking to us about was rest, and they mentioned the 7 different types of rest. And I feel like I'm just gonna read it. We're not gonna get into like the specifics. If you want to know more about it, you can read it and look it up. But so there's 7 different types of rest: creative, mental, emotional, social, sensory, spiritual, and physical. Mm-hmm. And so I think like when you break it down into that, like it's easier for you to know what you need if you know that, like, if I'm socially like burnt out, then I need social rest, and then that's like when I can create space to socially rest from people, or like even social media, like social rest, or physical rest, doing yoga or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like it looks different for everybody, but I think that if you know what kind of rest you need, it's easier to rest from that thing, and
I've
that way you
been
rest
physically
differently.
resting the past 21 years, so I haven't been doing anything. Haven't been going to. Yeah.
Crazy.
So,
I just
yeah.
really feel like physical rest is
So rested.
Yeah.
It's upon me. But yeah.
Sorry, I feel you're
No,
going
it's
so
okay.
deep, and I just had that joke. I had
It's
to say
okay.
it.
So yeah, I feel like it's easier when you know like there's different kinds of rest to like know what you need, and that can help you from not like comparing yourself of like, okay, this person is doing a social media rest, but like you don't feel like you need that. Like you don't need to compare yourself and be like, well, this person's going off of social media, so maybe I need to get off social
That's
media.
good.
Yeah.
But like, if that's not what the Lord is asking from you, then don't worry about it. Like,
Yeah.
do what you feel like God is inviting you into.
Yeah.
You know.
That's so good.
So.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing too with rest, just to like wrap up real quick, it's like God tells us to rest. So I feel like when we take into consideration all the things, right? To rest is to trust in God. Okay, so then what does resting look like? Well, it's different for everybody. But then also trust, right? So when we rest, when we, like what you said, when we fully rest, we fully trust.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important to remember, because a lot of us is just go, grind. But then it's like, okay, when are you being intentional with like, yo, when are you reading your word? When are you praying? When are you seeking out the Lord?
Yeah.
And that's so good, because if we're people who are in ministry and are people who are impacting lives, right? It's like, okay, so when am I getting filled? Because, you know, like an empty cup has nothing to pour out.
Is that empty?
It is. I was going to do it, but there's always like those little, like, yeah,
little bit of
coffee,
coffee.
little droplets at the end. Yeah. Man, well, Michelle, we've been so blessed by this conversation.
I'm so glad.
And we're going to miss you so much.
Yeah.
It's going to suck. But man, we're just so happy to see what God is going to do through you. You want to shout out your social media?
Yeah, you can follow me on social media. It's Michelle Edens, but it's spelled MICHELLEDENS. So the E for my like the last name, or my last name, and from the end of my first name is like connected into one.
Whoa.
So there isn't 2 E's. You know what I'm saying?
We'll put it in the bio.
Put it in the bio.
But yo, we're so excited to see what God is going to do through that. Are you going to be vlogging, posting?
We're actually doing like a internet social media fast.
Okay,
So-
never mind. So don't go follow her.
No, follow me. I'm just kidding.
Come on, she said.
No,
Come on.
but I will have like a day a week where I have Wi-Fi, so I'm hoping to like take stuff through the week and just like slam it on my social media and like let people know what I'm doing that day.
Yeah.
Because I want to keep people updated, and I think it's gonna be really cool and really fun. So, and I want people who have like supported me to like be able to be a part of that vicariously.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Well, guys, if you love this podcast, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave us a comment. If there's any recommendations of topics you want to hear us talk about, leave them in the comments down below. We love you guys so much. Take care. See you in the next one.
Peace.